Hey, what's up, guys? The Chosen One. You know the deal. Today we're going to be doing a Power Level Media discussion video, and today's topic is Chris Jericho officially signing with All Elite Wrestling and him actually signing the contract on Instagram with Tony Khan. And if you guys remember, Tony Khan was rumored to be All Elite Wrestling's president and financial backer, but it's been officially confirmed. He was there during the contract signing. He gave Chris Jericho the contract to sign on Instagram, and this is a huge moment because there was a lot of rumors going on that, you know, he was the president and people didn't even know if it was official. So he's official. It's signed. The contract is signed. Chris Jericho is all in for All Elite Wrestling. And when I made my initial video about Chris Jericho being all in for All Elite Wrestling, I wrote that because I didn't want to say he was officially signed because he didn't say those exact words at the Double or Nothing rally. It was only really official when we saw Tony Khan for the first time and Chris Jericho actually signing this contract on Instagram. So now we can talk about it. It's official. He actually signed. The T's are crossed. The I's are dotted. And this is a huge moment in wrestling history. This is going to be a big thing. And recently, Chris Jericho was interviewed by Chris Van Vliet, and he talks about some big things in this interview. One of the quotes in this interview, we're going to go through this interview. I broke it down a little bit. I'll leave the link down below so you guys can check it out. It's a great interview, but I just wanted to talk about the things he said, and I want to go off of those. So some big things in this interview. Chris Jericho says that something was discussed about All Elite Wrestling about 4 months ago, but he never took it seriously. But as negotiations progressed, he thought there was actually a really good chance that he would end up in AEW. And he also said that this is the biggest offer he's ever been made in his whole career. And Chris Jericho's got money, and he does so many things, you know, from his podcast. He's got so many side things he does on his own. And as long as he's been with WWE, he's saying this is the biggest offer of his career. So we can only imagine how much he was actually signed for by All Elite Wrestling. And he actually talks about how long his contract is for. And he was signed for 3 years. So he signed a 3-year contract with All Elite Wrestling. And that's huge. So we can only imagine how much he got paid for 3 years. That's a long contract. A lot of wrestlers sign, you know, maybe 18 months. It's like, you know, because you don't want to lock yourself in for too long. You don't know what could happen, you know. A lot can change in 18 months, but he's locked in for 3 years. So this shows that he has a lot of faith. He has a lot, you know, going into this. He's putting a lot into this. He's putting his whole career on the line. If this fails, you know, I mean, it's on him pretty much. You know, he kind of said it, you know, if this fails, it's on me. But if something big happens, you know, we're the guys that are starting it. So either way, it's kind of, you know, it can go either way. But a lot of things were said in this interview, like I said, so make sure you guys check it out. Another thing he actually said was, he actually said this exactly. WWE is signing as many people as they can, and people are starting to realize that they are signing just to sign and not use people that are being signed. And those people might want to sign with All Elite Wrestling. And he also talks about there's nothing wrong with NXT. These are some of his quotes. But Shinsuke going from headlining the Tokyo Dome to being put in NXT and spent a year in the minor league system, a lot of people wouldn't want to do that. So he's saying that, you know, that a lot of people that, like, they don't want to go to NXT. They've made huge names for themselves on the independents, and then you have to go to NXT, which is almost like a school, like a wrestling school to practice. When you know, some people feel like they perfected their career, like they don't have to. They should go straight to the main roster. They shouldn't have to go to NXT. And like he said, a lot of people don't feel, you know, a lot of people don't want to do that. So those people might just go to All Elite Wrestling where they can actually be showcased in that company, which is crazy. This is a lot of stuff in this interview. Great interview. Chris Jericho's so good with these interviews. Dropping a lot of details. And he also stated that there is no bad blood between him and WWE on his end, and he spoke to Vince prior to signing the contract, And he said that Vince knew about it, and the words they exchanged were very amicable, and it wasn't like it was a surprise. And he says business is business, and Vince McMahon is his friend, and he loves the guy, and there's no ill will whatsoever. And the business just took him down this road, and he would have been crazy to not have signed just because he might insult someone. And he said that the first person that would agree with that would be Vince McMahon. So, that's big news right there. Everybody was wondering if Vince McMahon was mad. Are they like gonna go against each other? Do they have any kind of ill feelings to each other? And he pretty much just said, they left on good terms, and Chris Jericho is now focusing on himself, and he's doing his own thing. And he said that now is a time where you can actually make money out of WWE. Like, you don't have to be at WWE to make money. And he also talks about how he went from, being like a mid-card guy, doing the whole stint with Kevin Owens. And, even though that whole thing blew up, he still wasn't a main guy. And then going to New Japan and then being the main event and being the main event guy, and then doing the cruise, his own cruise, and being the main event of that. He just, realized that you can make money out of WWE. There's money to be made out of WWE, and he doesn't need to be, there. He can actually do his own thing now. And, but there's no ill feelings, so that's a good thing. Hopefully this is going to be a lot of healthy competition. And there was actually rumors last week that after the Double or Nothing rally, that people on SmackDown that were wearing All Elite Wrestling t-shirts were getting thrown out. I don't know how true that was. I've seen some reports on that. But right there just shows that WWE is already, feeling that, seeing them as a threat. Because if you didn't care, you wouldn't throw them out for wearing the t-shirts. So them throwing them out is actually showing that they do care, and this is starting to be a big thing to them. And but that's just a little more stuff about AEW that I heard. What else did he said a lot in this, and he also talks about his new look in New Japan and how that may translate over to All Elite Wrestling. And he says, quote, and I quote this: "The lighted jacket guy with the sparkly trunks, and the list is gone. Even if I went back to the WWE, that's why I really didn't want to go back, because that's what they would have wanted. They want the list, and I know it would feel really weird going back to that, and it's never good to do it a second time. Like, you can never recreate it." So those are his exact quotes. So no more list, no more sparkly jacket Jericho. I love heel Jericho. I love New Japan Jericho. I love the look, the leather jacket with the studded spikes, the face paint. It's just like his attitude is just, it's so intense. And we never saw that kind of Jericho in WWE. Just because WWE is like limited. You can only do so much in WWE. So now I feel like him, exploring this new side of his character is just amazing. And just him being able to reinvent himself over and over and just stay fresh with a young audience, because wrestling fans, they range, age ranges, but, just staying hip with the young crowd, because that's basically what it boils down to. Jericho is still hip for his age, and he's able to keep in touch with this, with these generations that just, he's been through, I don't even know, maybe 3 generations now of kids, 30 years wrestling, he said. So, I mean, he's seen kids really young and kids grow up to, like me. I've been watching Jericho since I was 10 years old, and now I'm 30 years old. So that's 20 years, it's crazy. So, but yeah, so I'm really glad that he's keeping that really New Japan style. He loves that style. He said maybe not so much the paint, but he's going to really try to do that in AEW and apply that. But yeah, so much stuff in this interview. It's so great. He also talks about Kenny Omega and how his contract expires at the end of the month. And he said that he really hopes that he signs with All Elite Wrestling, because he's like really the last big free agent right now besides Chris Jericho. But Chris Jericho signed with All Elite Wrestling. So the last big free agent on the market right now is Kenny Omega. So it's going to be huge. If Kenny Omega signs with All Elite Wrestling, this is going to be insane. It's going to be insane. And I've heard some things already saying that he already knows where he's going to go. Obviously, he's going to go with his friends. And I've heard crazy things that he's been offered crazy amounts of money, creative control, like his contract, like offered like tons of money to be signed to WWE. And WWE is trying everything to sign him. But I feel like he's just going to stick with All Elite Wrestling. And I feel like that's probably the best move for him anyways, because even though there's so many dream matches Kenny Omega can have in WWE with, AJ Styles, Kenny Omega, Finn Balor, Kenny Omega and Shinsuke, Kenny Omega and Daniel Bryan, all those dream matches, that he could have in WWE. I mean, it's only if WWE puts him in those matches. Because if they I feel like every time these guys from New Japan come, like Shinsuke especially is a perfect example. I feel like his style in New Japan to now is a completely different style. He's more suppressed, in ring wise, if that makes sense. Like, I just feel like he's not as explosive in the ring. He's not able to do some of the things that he was able to do in New Japan, and just the pacing and the whole. Shinsuke is funny, but the whole comedy thing, I feel like Shinsuke is a failed WWE, New Japan wrestler. They put him in NXT, which he shouldn't. I don't even think he should have went to NXT. I agree with Jericho. I feel like he should have went straight to WWE. And then when they put him in WWE, his first feud is against Dolph Ziggler. I mean, it wasn't the greatest debut. He was on the poster, and I don't even think he won that match. He might have not even have won that match. But that whole Shinsuke Dolph Ziggler feud was just horrible to start him off. And like Jericho said, Shinsuke, who knows? Shinsuke could be one of those guys that would go to sign with AEW. Who knows? Maybe he's thinking about it. Maybe he'll be treated differently over there. Maybe he'll be able to showcase more of his movesets and, the explosiveness he has in the ring. Because if you watch AJ Styles versus Shinsuke at Wrestle Kingdom, I don't remember exactly which one. I don't know which one it was. It might have been, I'm not even a guess, but just look it up. If you guys see that match and then just see how crazy and explosive that match was, and then you watch, the match they had in WWE, I believe it was at WrestleMania. That was the first match, and it didn't live up to the hype at all. It was just bad. But even Chris Jericho and the whole Kevin Owens thing of, the whole list and all that stuff, it was amazing. It was so amazing how he can just get everything over and just do all this crazy stuff and make everybody just, even him being a bad guy, everybody would always cheer for him. Chris Jericho coming back and returning was always like a huge thing. He's hilarious, and but yeah, now we're exploring this new character and this new side of him in New Japan, which I'm really excited for. Another big thing, Billy Gunn actually signs as the first producer for All Elite Wrestling, which is another huge signing. All these WWE guys, this is crazy already. We got Pac, Neville, we got Billy Gunn, we got Chris Jericho, Cody Rhodes. These are all WWE guys. And it's crazy because I'm going to actually do another video on this subject. And Billy Gunn signing as a new producer, the first producer for All Elite Wrestling, versus Road Dogg, Jesse James, being the producer, or one of the main producers of SmackDown. And it's gonna be crazy once All Elite Wrestling gets a TV deal, and we're gonna see these guys creatively pretty much go at it. It's gonna be crazy to see, and these guys are really good friends, and it's gonna be crazy to see them go at it creatively. Who would have thought? We've seen them wrestle. They actually broke up a couple times. Their matches against each other weren't that great, but this is gonna be now them producing shows against each other, which is insane. I wonder what Triple H thinks about this. I really would love to hear Triple H at least release some kind of statement, but they probably won't because they don't want to give All Elite Wrestling they don't want to give them any kind of promotion, so they don't want to say anything about it. But We're going to see a lot of WWE signings. Like, who knows who else they're going to sign and not utilize. But I feel like WWE, when Chris Jericho talks about it in this interview, that WWE is just trying to sign everybody. Sometimes I feel like WWE just tries to sign everybody so they have them, and no other company can use them. So even if WWE is not using them, they're on the roster and nobody else can utilize them. So a perfect example, like, of wrestlers that aren't utilized, like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. I just feel like WWE did not know what to do with them for the past year, and now they're injured. Like, it just sucks. Like, they can't even do anything. And when they come back, are they going to be utilized? But it doesn't really matter to WWE because they're signed. They're not going to go sign with another company. That's why I feel like WWE signs these people, and they try to get them in, like, I don't know how, like, I can't say for each wrestler, I'm sure it's different. They try to sign them for a longer contract just so they could keep them with them. Just like Kenny Omega, like them trying so hard to sign Kenny Omega, I feel like they're just doing that because they don't want nobody else to have him. But obviously, I mean, it's competition. You want to have the best talent, but I'm just commenting on what Chris Jericho said about WWE trying to sign everybody and not using everybody. It's crazy, but the business is changing. It's going to be a good thing for all of us, for wrestling fans, wrestlers, just new jobs in general. A lot of stuff is going to happen for AEW. I'm excited to see it. Can't wait till they finally announce the TV deal, see where they're going with that. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for that whole Chris Jericho interview. Make sure you guys check that interview out. I'll leave it down below in the description, and comment down below what you think about Chris Jericho officially signing with All Elite Wrestling and his 3-year contract deal. It's a big thing. So what else can I say, guys? Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Power Level Media, Chosen One, out. Yes.